Good afternoon, and welcome to the very first BIM4Ren webinar. Meet BIM4Ren, easy to use BIM tools for renovation. My name is Fernando Sichos. I'm the Projects and Communication Manager of the European Builders Confederation. The European Builders Confederation is the European organization representing construction crafts and the SMEs in Europe. What is BIM4Ren? BIM4Ren is an Horizon 2020 project made of 23 partners from 10 European countries. Horizon 2020, as you may already know, is the EU funding program for research and innovation. Our partnership is coordinated by the French research center Nobatek. The project started in October 2018 for a total duration of 48 months. Currently, we're around month 20. With a budget of 7 million euros. Here on your right, you can have a look at the geographical coverage of our partnership. The BIM4Ren webinar series. Today, in this first edition, the idea is to meet you and to have a first connection with you. We will talk about the context of digital construction, the concept of BIM4Ren and the solutions we propose, as well as the challenges for BIM in renovation. First edition will be followed by many others that will be linked to findings in our pilot sites, research developments, the presentation of our tools, of course, as well as training sessions and more. The BIM4Ren webinars are organized in the context of the BIM4Ren stakeholders community. The stakeholders community or stakeholders community is a flexible community to participate in BIM4Ren activities or to monitor them. We have 4 categories. One being, of course, the BIM4Ren partnership, the consortium. The second category are the early adopters. The early adopters are closely linked to our 3 pilot sites in Spain, France, and Italy. They are the ones that are demonstrating how our tools and platform works. You could become an early adopter. The third category are the stakeholders. Today, you're in that category because this covers all people that want to participate in our activities in our webinars, as today, in our workshops, in our different kind of events, conference, and so forth, as well as our training sessions in the future. The fourth category are the followers, people that are curious about what BIM4Ren is and does, and that they manifest their curiosity by following our social media, subscribing to our newsletter. This community is very flexible. Permeability is a key word. A follower could become a stakeholder, could become an early adopter even if it increases his interest. So it's really up to you to decide what kind of engagement you'd like to have with BIM4Ren project. How to contact us? Easy. If you want more information about the stakeholders community or show your willingness to collaborate with us, just write an email to us. You have the email address over here. Also, subscribe to our newsletter, easy way to receive all the info about BIM4Ren. We are present in social media, of course, as well. In addition to our website, we're on Twitter, on LinkedIn. You can find us very easily. Those communication channels will provide you soon info about the next BIM4Ren webinars. Edition 2 and 3 will be devoted to the BIM4Ren renovation workflows, as well as 3D scanning. Before giving the floor to Eugenio, a few quick notes actually. Don't forget, please, to provide us your feedback at the end of this webinar. Tell us what you thought of it. And for your information as well, please see in your widget that you have the categories handouts and chat. If you have any question, please type it in the chat section. And also, if you want more info straight away, you can download the brochure in the handout section. Now I'm going to give the floor to Eugenio Quintieri.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you, Fernando, and thank you all the BIM4Ren consortium all our friends and colleagues from the different organizations, and welcome to all the participants that are today attending the webinar in this new way of presenting and discussing. If you have any question, please don't hesitate to write to us. I'm here today just to explain where we are in terms of digitalization in our sector and why we participate in different initiatives such as BIM4Ren and why we think it is important. I will have Fernando helping me with the slides. So Fernando, can you just switch the slide so that we go on? Doesn't go. Okay, here we are. So we believe that the construction sector can give an enormous contribution to certain new goals, amongst which there is the decarbonization of new building stock and making the Green Deal possible. Why we think that it's like this? Because if you consider, for example, today that existing buildings are considered 97% energy inefficient, and they are responsible of 40% of the total energy consumption. To change the situation and achieve the EU goals in terms of decarbonization, we will need a percentage of 3% of renovation per year. And we are today stuck at 1%. And we try to do this in different ways. And for sure, digitalization can help in this sense by increasing productivity, increasing the traceability of the materials when it comes to circular economy, but also the calculation of energy efficiency. Digitalization can help, but we need to massify it. And of course, it is a challenge when you consider that 94.1% of the construction companies are companies with less than 10 workers. So there are some big challenges to be met. And this is translated with what are today, if you want, the assessment of digitalization in the construction sector. We know the famous or infamous McKinsey report talking about the construction sector as the least digitalized sector. There are many reasons, and I personally believe that some are structural, but still we could do better. And within the construction sector, McGraw-Hill calculates that the contractors have the lowest level of BIM adoption if compared to other actors of the value chain, like, for example, architects. And the SME role is not being taken into account by BIM designer and sometimes by contractors, according to the latest studies from the University of Huddersfield. How we can change that? Fernando, slide, please. Let's wait for the slide. So how we can make digitalization happen? For sure, we cannot do it without construction SMEs. Slide, Fernando. And the sustainable construction cannot be reached without the construction SMEs. Let's go on. A bit in connection troubles for changing the slide. Here we are. So how can we make this possible, and why this is not happening too much today? First, there is a huge number of digital tools. Some are not adapted to the size and the knowledge of SMEs. We have a lot of talks, for example, about BIM viewers and how if all actors need to input the same kind of data, how they can input them, which kind of data they should see. We have also a lack of interoperability between the different tools that then obliges you to double operations and also double the buying of certain softwares. Moreover, there are certain softwares that not really address the needs of the small companies. there is a structural issue, the fact that we don't, as SMEs, we do not have a lot of financial means, and for sure we do not have the digital expertise or the training to deal with digitalization, because our core business is construction, and usually the budget for IT is reserved to Excel, maybe the Microsoft Office package, so Outlook, and let's say the basics to work. So, slide, please. Let's wait. So, these are the reasons for which we are very active in digital construction. We have many initiatives. I see that the European Commission, Inigo Uresti, Electra Papadaki are today participating to the meeting, and with the Commission, but not only, also with many stakeholders, we are working to advance on this. And one of the ways that we chose was surely BIM4Ren, because the idea is really to have digital tools that are user-friendly, that are adapted to the needs of construction SMEs, and the only way to ensure that is through a dialogue between the IT sector and the construction sector. That is not always the case, because on one side usually you have an IT sector that doesn't know the specifics of construction, and on the other side the construction sector that doesn't understand the IT frameworks. And we are trying to bridge that gap. In order to do that, we work with the BIM4Ren consortium, and we try also to beta test the tools with our national members and their SMEs. And we like it because the idea is to have tools that are financially accessible, that are accompanied by some guidance and training to the SMEs that will have to use them, and tools that can be adapted if through the beta testing we discover that maybe there are some modifications to be made. Slide, please. That's all. I leave the floor to Pierre Bourreau from Nobatek, who is our consortium leader. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Hope the slide is displayed now. Okay, so my name is Pierre Bourreau. I work for Nobatek in F4. We are a research center in France, and we are the coordinators of the BIM4Ren project. So in this talk, I will just present quite briefly the main aspects of the BIM4Ren project, the concept, what we're trying to do, as a complementary talk to the one that Eugenio just gave. Okay, so BIM4Ren, so it's a project about BIM and renovation. So as Eugenio said, right now the digital revolution in the construction sector still needs to happen. We hope that this can improve the productivity of the sector. And when we mention digital solutions for the construction sector, most of the people think about BIM. BIM now is the synonym of digital solution for the construction sector, more or less. And when we speak about BIM, so many people think about a 3D model, complex tools, expensive tools, and so on. And we try to take it differently. And we, as a starting point, we think that BIM is more than a tool or digital solution. It's a collaborative process. It's a methodology to have people, stakeholders, working together, exchanging information easily, and trying to have a good flow in the process so as to achieve a good project. The model, the semantically enriched model, is here to support this process. So it's not the center of the BIM concept, but it's more, we take it as, we consider the process is key and the model is just here to support the activity. Okay, so now BIM in renovation. So we can see that BIM historically is mostly used on new projects. So basically, most of the tools that exist on the market can be put in the hand of the architect, who will draw a sketch of the building that will be built. So it's used at the conception phase, and we start from scratch. But in a renovation project, things are completely different because the building already exists. So if we want to build up a rich model, and so to support this workflow, as we said just before, we need to digitize the existing building. And when we say digitizing this existing building, this is not just about using some 3D scanner or something like that. We need to collect as much information as possible from the existing building. And also, if we look at the existing standards to this, well, the BIM standards to model buildings, those standards exist for new projects, but they are not always fully suitable for renovation projects. So we identified like uncertainty, for instance, that needs to be modeled. So some elements cannot be easily modeled in the current standards. So we need to extend those standards, but also to make them usable for the other phases of the building life cycles, the construction and exploitation phase, for instance. Another aspect which is interesting is that BIM renovation can be seen as complementary activities, let's say. So when we want to digitize a building, we need to collect information about it. We need to go on site to see what's the building like and try to digitize it, as we just said. But the renovation, the way the renovation and energy efficient renovation has to happen, most of the time it's also with the on-site visits to see, to assess the status of the building and see what are the interventions that need to be done in the future. So while we go for an audit on the building, we can also try to digitize the building at the same time. So some activities can be complementary and done in the same with the same phases. And another really important aspect about renovation is that we can speak about different depths of renovation projects. So if for a particular project you just need to change the windows, you won't need the same information as for another project where you will need to change all the heating system in the building, install solar panels, add an insulation layer, and so on. So, of course, you also have to consider the typology of the renovation to be done to know what is the model, what is the BIM model that you will need for your project. Okay, so based on this idea, we identified 3 main steps for renovation project and using BIM. So the first step is to have to collect any data that you could need for your project, for your renovation project. So this can be like the year of construction, the local regulation, the budget that your client have, the energy performance that you need to reach, occupancy information, so any kind of information that is relevant to your project. So once this is done, you extracted all this information. You want to build up your BIM model based on that. So the information is extracted. Now you have to structure this data in your BIM model, and the model needs also to be validated. To ensure that you have no big errors or missing data, and so on. So for instance, if you want to perform energy simulation, you need to have pretty accurate geometry of your building. So once you have your model, you need to exploit this model to start the design phase. So you're able to design or to model the building as it is. Now you will make some changes on it. Those changes are interpreted as the renovation scenario that will be implemented, and you will test whether through these changes you're able to reach the goals that your client told you to reach. So in order to do that, you can run some simulation on the BIM model that was changed. So all of this data collection, data management, and data-driven design are performed through the tools we are developing in the project. And in order to ease the access of the different tools, we are encapsulating everything in a toolbox, which is our one-stop access platform. So there is just one single entry point for the user to use each of these data. Now, so what are the objectives of this of the project? So first one, and so I strongly insisted on that, is that we want to have a flexible and collaborative workflow for renovation, as we consider BIM more than a tool to be a workflow. So the workflow needs to be flexible because you have to consider different types of building, different depths of renovation, and different actors and expectations. So this was done. We designed this workflow, which will be the basis for all the developments that are ongoing now. This workflow will be presented in a future webinar, as Fernando said just before. So we will give you some more details about it in the future. Then to support the workflow, we want to test and to develop tools and to integrate them inside the BIM4Ren toolbox. So we already started testing existing tools on the market. So for instance, in Paris, that was in our Paris pilot site, we tested some 3D capturing through various tools. One of these is the Navis trolley. Another one is how to build on a smartphone. So really, the idea is to see, well, how much money you need to invest to use the tools, how much expertise, is there a real gain in using an expert tool or a tool that would be easier to be used by a non-expert person, and so on. So we can, of course, imagine that for an SME, it would be far easier to use a smartphone than a trolley on site. And this is also the philosophy of this project, about trying to look at what we can put in the hand of the different actors of the renovation sector. And once we will have developed all those tools, we want, of course, to test and to assess the results on different buildings. So in the project, we have 3 buildings, one in France, one in Italy, and one in Spain. Different kind of buildings, different type of interventions that are required by the clients. And yeah, the idea is to see how the tools we are putting in the hands of the actors can try to improve the productivity on this on these renovations. Also, we want to contribute to the next IFC roadmap. This is something ongoing. All the work we are doing is based on the Open BIM standard, and IFC is one of those. So we are trying also to push for some new ideas in there. And finally, we are also developing a training program as it is crucial not just to give digital tools to the construction sector, but also to have a training which is suitable and helpful for them. Okay, so the actions for the project. So the first two phases are already covered. So we collected some requirements based on interviews, and we asked the questionnaires and so on to the practitioners. We elaborated a flexible workflow, and now we are developing and integrating tools to support this workflow. This is what we are currently doing for the next year, and testing the tools on some real use cases, evaluate the results, and training. Of course, as Fernando said, you can be part of that. We would be also happy to test on other buildings the tools, or to provide the tools for other use cases if you have some to give us. So be in contact and let us know if you're interested. That's everything for me. I'm now Jakob Betz from the University of Aachen will follow.
Hi, good afternoon. I hope you can see my screen. Otherwise, please raise your hand or make yourself heard. Good afternoon also from me. Jakob Betz is my name. I'm from the Technical University of Aachen, the RWTH in Germany. I'm one of the many project partners in the BIM4Ren project. And in the next couple of minutes, I want to share a little bit of the perspective on the potential of building information modeling, building information managing, in the context of renovation, as it is in the center of our BIM4Ren project. When we look at the generic setup of the scope of building information modeling, then we're always talking about the entire life cycle of build assets, that is of buildings, of infrastructural artifacts, and so forth. And as most of us are well aware, is that the tools, both from a methodological side as well as from a technical point of view, when you're talking about actual hands-on digital tools used on your computers, are mainly focused on the areas that are or on the life cycle phases, on the life cycle stages that are depicted in gray here. They're mostly made to support you in the design and the planning and the construction and the operation of newly built buildings, such as visible in as a symbolic iconography of the new building in the center of this image. However, as we have heard already this afternoon, the large potential really certainly in Europe and in other developed countries, where we look back on a rich history of hundreds of years of building stock that we still have in our assets and that are an asset that we cannot get rid of. The one area where those tools and where those methodological approaches actually haven't been focused on is refurbishment, is the revitalization, the necessary revitalization of this existing building stock. And that's exactly where a large untapped potential of this whole market for building information models and their application in practice actually lies. So if we take a look at the common framework that we all as a society and as an industry and the building and construction industry agreed upon on the ISO 16660, which kind of lays out the main framework for building information modeling, it's exactly or especially in two areas that the BIM4Ren project is contributing. And those are exactly one of those areas that have been not received the main attention in the beginning. So as first, the BIM4Ren project really focuses on the inception and on the semantic enrichment of existing relevant asset information, because that is what we already have. We have the buildings themselves that urgently need to be renovated, that urgently need to be refurbished, or that urgently need to be revitalized. But often we only have analog, if any information at all, available. So coming to a quicker means to actually incorporate this information that we find out in the field, or as built BIM, into our planning methods is one of the main targets, one of the main goals of our BIM4Ren project. And as a second main area, we want to integrate these new newly developed methods and these adapted tools from the many of our industry vendors and software vendors. We want to integrate them into the processes of industry members, into their day-to-day interaction, and make their lives easier by not only delivering them yet another tool in their already large toolbox, but by really tightly integrating them into an ecosystem that is based on the notion of a common data environment, or CDE. So the notion that we all share our partial models, our partial domain models into a common ground, and by that are able to really make quicker cycles and have better decisions and come to optimized results and increase the quality of our buildings and lower the costs and avoid common mistakes. And in order to do that, we in the first stages that are already behind us from our from the project, we are studying closely how the processes and how the ways they interact with information in building and construction actually differs when you talk about greenfield, plain level, from scratch in a laboratory setting, if you want, and you erect new buildings, and how this differs from what we're doing in existing buildings. And there are a number of issues that we would like that we have identified in these first stages of our project that we're targeting our tools towards to. And certainly among them is the ingestion, or is the acquisition of the information that is already available from our building stock. So to this we can count both count both acquisition methods such as laser point scanning, or the digitalization of 2D drawings that have been produced maybe decades or even centuries ago, and to quickly turn them into information models that we can then use in our simulation tools, that we can then use to actually make quantity takeoffs of the assets that we already have in our portfolio, and to feed them to things like energy information, like energy simulation packages, which is really a very tiresome, a very error-prone process if we do them solely based on solely based by manual transaction from, let's see, from reality to be captured into the suite of applications that we already have. So in the end, if you take this BIM wedge, this infamous BIM wedge that has been suggested, and that again we have been more or less agreed upon in the community, and then we quickly want to achieve BIM level 3, and to push towards BIM level 3 with respect to existing building stock. It's again in two areas where the BIM4Ren project wants to contribute. It's in the extension of our existing Building Smart International and ISO certified data exchange platforms, such as the industry foundation classes. So asking yourself, what is it that is missing in the current version of IFC4 and the upcoming versions, IFC5? What is it that is missing that pertains to the existing building stock? So as one of the first results, sets of results actually, that we have acquired from several workshops with the participants within our consortium and with industry members is to clearly identify what kind of information is necessary to be fed to our tools and into the processes, and what is the and what kind of information is actually delivered by these stakeholders in the various renovation related processes. We're closely sticking to the IDM notion for that, so identifying use cases, drawing process maps, and then creating model view definitions for the industry foundation classes. So that's the one area that we're contributing to. And the other one is pushing a more general and hopefully generically reusable way of pushing our suite of tools towards cloud-based model management. And what is that to say? That is to say, everything that we do and everything that we have designed up to now is based on the notion that we want to operate with software as a service, that we want services be interconnected by what we christened BIM bots to connect these to connect the individual services to each other and act on behalf of the stakeholders, of the several stakeholders that are involved in a usual renovation project. So this is really the areas that BIM4Ren already has contributed to in several publications, in several prototypes, and has helped also our industry members to, for example, wrap their already great products into layers of services that can now be interconnected in order to achieve this idea of BIM hubs, in order to achieve this idea of cloud-based model management. And with this, we hope we have given you a little introduction, and we're very happy that so many of you took up this opportunity to meet us, to meet the consortium of BIM4Ren. And in the hands-out section, we would like to notify you that we have shared some more information. Some of that has been mentioned in the earlier presentations, and with some time left at our hands, we would like to open up the floor to you to probably turn around the webinar now, to get to know you a little bit more, to get to receive your comments, to receive your feedbacks, and to also give you the chance to probably steer some of the focus that still can be distributed in the upcoming 2 years of our projects to aspects that we may have overlooked, or that you would like to suggest from the practical point of view, or from sister projects in national or in European funded research projects. And by that, I would like to thank all of you in the name of the vast BIM4Ren consortium, and would like to open up the floor for questions. Thank you.
Indeed. Hello again, everyone. Thank you very much for the speakers. Now, it is indeed the time for us to share with you a bit further. I would like to quickly go exactly. I'm going to call it open, the Q&A session. I've received the first 2 questions. Thank you very much for that. Keep them coming in the chat. I'll definitely have a look, and then we'll address them to the person that is best suited to reply to them. So we have a first question that is, will the tools be available for free at the end of the project? And I will give the floor to Pierre to reply to that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so this is a tricky question, let's say. It really depends on the tools we are talking about. As Jakob also said just now, there we have some partners who are, for their business is to develop those tools. So those tools won't be for free for sure. Then other tools are developed under the open source license, so you could get some for free, but not all of them. Not all of them. So that's my answer.
And then for you, Jacob, when you talk about a BIM model, is this an IFC model or is it generated? The person asked if he will be able to see it in a free BIM viewer like BIM Spot.
Okay, so that's a very good question because it pertains to this idea that most of or that you still often meet in industry where BIM is taken interchangeably for any application X, Y, Z. For a product that you can go into the store and say I would like a kilogram of BIM application to solve all my problems, which of course is not really covering the entire picture. So we're not focusing on a particular product, even though we have great vendors in our consortium, we have great and market-leading, for example, energy assimilation experts, and they cannot focus on any single vendor-specific information model. So the dedicated model that we're taken up to encapsulate and to semantically enrich building information is indeed the RWTH industry foundation classes, as these are the ones as this industry foundation classes model, along with the other building smart standards, are really the ones that can be read by hundreds, by literally hundreds of applications and hundreds of tools, including, I guess, the BIM Spot navigator. Even though I'm not fortunate enough to know this particular tool, but if it's IFC compatible, then yes, you would be able to read BIM4Ren specific information or BIM4Ren specific building information models. So maybe I don't know whether this takes too long of your time, but the one of the first results and delivered in one of the first work packages in the project is actually to inspect the industry foundation classes model and see what is missing that pertains to industry, that pertains to existing building stock. So one thing that comes to mind is, for example, that whenever you inspect and ingest and acquire and capture the reality of an existing building, then you often deal with, for example, with uncertainty. You don't know for sure what the materials are that have been used to construct the building. You don't know for sure how old certain components are, and you don't know for sure without opening up this construction in a destructive way what may be beyond several layers deep in your let's say in your wall. Even though these building parts are critical to whatever it is you're going to do to revitalize your building, and this uncertainty is one of the examples that has not been captured in any has not been captured in the industry foundation classes model. So one of the results one of the early results of the BIM4Ren project is to really look for ways to integrate uncertain information, to integrate additional information, to integrate additional documents, to integrate and interlink specific information that is specifically addresses the existing building stock without having to reinvent an entire new model. So take what is there, take the industry foundation classes, and add semantic layers that pertain to the existing building stock, that pertain to buildings that are already there. I hope this answers the question, but maybe if there's follow-ups to that, we can come back to this, but I will yield the microphone back to other participants now.
Thank you, Jacob, for that. Indeed, I have another question here now received for Eugenio. It's a very broad one. How do you see the construction sector, and especially the SMEs, in 3 to 5 years? Do you think that BIM tools will be used?
That's a good question. I'm not very able to forecast the future. It will, in my opinion, it will depend on what we do in these years, and for me, it's the crucial question. If we want to see digitization happen in the construction sector, we need to massify it, and we need to massify it, reaching all potential stakeholders. In this case, mainly the SMEs. How we can do that? I think we need to keep, the first thing, we need a good financial support when it comes to accessing the tools, but also the training related to that. Second thing that we need, in my opinion, is the right regulatory framework, because today there are still some questions linked to liability and data sharing, and this needs to be fixed, not to scare, let's put it this way, the user. If we want to see in 3-5 years BIM or digital tools in general increasing, we need adapted tools. We need to have also a strategy to reach the SMEs through maybe system of track and trace, going and showing why it is important to adapt. I think also that some regulatory parameters that are today in certain countries, like the increasing obligation of BIM obligations in PAM procurement, will also play a role in a way or another. We need to make sure that this happens in the right way. It doesn't exclude certain actors from the actor, and especially SMEs, so that the change is gradually made, if you want. And we need, of course, to also act at a higher level, and we do it through these projects. We are also doing it through the reference architecture of a European digital platform, and we will also make sure that BIM4Ren can connect to this. We are doing it with different stakeholders called DigiPlace, and we will make sure that BIM4Ren tools will be connected to this platform. I believe that digitization needs to happen, but in order to happen, it has to be done the right way. If the resources are limited for the SMEs, we need to show them why it is important to join the digital transformation. The resources are limited, but still we are talking about entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs invest when they see an opportunity, and I think we need to show why it is important and where the opportunity is.
Thank you, Eugenio. I hope it replies to the question. Now, another question for Pierre this time. You mentioned design tools for energy optimization, but we know that BIM tools and more specific assessment tools, energy model, acoustic models, are not really compatible. In BIM4Ren, how do you ensure a good interoperability? Pierre, the floor is yours.
Yeah, that's a good question. We have we have a tool within the consortium specific for energy simulation, which is able to validate an AFC model to check some whether you have some errors on the geometry or some missing data related to the thermal properties of the elements in your model. And once the model is validated, you can convert the model in GPXML. So this is one way of doing it. So GPXML, just to be clear, so it's another BIM model, let's say, but it's more widely used by the energy simulation community to run to run simulations. So this is a possibility. Also, in the what we are trying to do and to test with our partners is to have not a file-oriented communication between, let's say, a BIM server and a simulation tool, but to have a data-oriented communication. So you are more on the IT side, we have APIs, so interfaces where you can ask for specific data on your model. So an energy simulation tool can ask for some specific data through these APIs and collect those data. And once the data are on the simulation side, you can rebuild the model in the format you want. So this is what we are trying to do now with our partners. But this, of course, this is a really good question, and one of the challenges of such a project.
Thank you very much. Pierre, stay with me for a very quick question regarding the training sessions, if it will be open to people external to the consortium.
Yes. So this is, yeah, I think it will be. Yes, if there is some interest for people outside of the consortium, for sure, we will be more than happy to provide those training to those people. So yeah, the only thing I guess is just to be in contact with us, be part of one of the 3 layers of the BIM4Ren community, and yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I'm going to share a question with Eugenio on Italy, and then I have another one for Jacob. Quickly, here in Italy, the largest number of units suitable for BIM4Ren are old buildings spread around the country, countryside, or the survived rest of large industrial sites which went bust. Is there a chance to start with SMEs, with SME BIM4Ren project? Real estate owners will be available to agree terms with you in order to move forward the profession in the bel paese.
To move on. Yeah. But let's put it this. Maybe I don't know if I get the question because I'm Italian, but let's say I don't represent Italians here. Or, I mean, I represent only some associations of Italians. You know, when we talk about suitable units, I would say that 97% of the European buildings are suitable for BIM4Ren tools, because we need to renovate. What is missing today, I think it's the right support for renovation. Today we are having a lot of discussions regarding what the European Union is trying to do with what is called the renovation wave, you know, to massify renovation. And at a higher level, we are following this because we need to make sure that, especially in COVID pandemic times, we give a boost to the Green Deal, and we give a boost to renovation in the right way, doing it through the digital transformation. I think we need a framework, we need financial framework. We need to address the real estate owners, as in this case, that are having troubles today, because of course with the pandemic we see a risk of less renovations. But of course, I think that the BIM4Ren tools will be also available for this project, and we will be more than happy to cooperate on this. So if you're aware of any initiative or any will to start some new renovation projects, we can connect the BIM4Ren consortium plus our Italian associations, possible contractors for renovation. So if you know anything, please get in touch and we will follow up. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugenio. And so the last question, as time is running, Jacob, if you define a data management plan for CDE, metadata of data ownership, how to access info, where is it, and for how long?
There's also a very interesting question and a very relevant one coming from Ignacio Robles. So yes, we made a plan how to address metadata. We're specifically trying to avoid to reinvent the wheel here and trying to jump on the train that is already rolling with regard to common data environment. And in particular with the Common Data Environment API that is been developed in one of the or is under development in one of the Building Smart rooms. So this at least takes care of some of the aspects. This at least takes care of authentication of users and roles and actors in a web of services, so that we can at least be prepared for situations in which we communicate sensible information about buildings in a secure way. That's certainly an issue that has been that has not been also not underdeveloped and under researched in research projects and in industry. And to make this work with heterogeneous tools and to the care of access right management and these aspects. With regard to metadata on the data itself, we're tagging the information, we're tagging the heterogeneous data sets that indeed during the acquisition, we're tagging them with metadata, but the focus and we're again reusing some of the things that have been developed in other research projects or that already are in the standards. Where, for example, it pertains to when was it captured, by whom was it captured, through what was it captured, using which methods and devices, with which certainty, and so forth. These kinds of metadata items we're attaching to our data, but this is and also long-term preservation, digital long-term preservation. So if we capture something today and we know that anything we build now will be due for renovation in 50 years from now, no matter how well it was built, it was executed, then we're trying to think along with digital long-term preservation questions to make sure that what we produce now is also valid over a long periods of life cycle of the products, of the buildings themselves. I hope this answers the question.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Lastly, unfortunately, time is running really fast. So what I'd like to do is to thank you all. Thank you all for your participation, and remind you about this, how to reach to us. I know 1 hour is very short time to discuss all those topics that are very exciting and interesting, but if you would like to know more about BIM4Ren, please don't forget a quick email to us, reach to us through our social media, through our website, and we'll be there and we'll reply to any other question that you may have about this. Soon we'll share the info about the next editions that will talk about more specific topics, the renovation workflow, 3D scanning. So I will keep you posted on that. Thank you again, and I'd like to remind you about the survey at the end of this webinar. This feedback is really, really precious. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day, and talk to you very soon.